past 10 o'clock in Uganda, about 8 minutes past 2 o'clock in the East Coast of the United States of America. I'm talking about Maryland, talking about Boston. I think there shouldn't be much of a difference in time there. I should be at 8 minutes past 2 o'clock. Welcome to Come. Let's talk with me, Kassim Kayira. Tonight, we are talking about a situation that has affected our community. It's not for the very first time, but it is the first time that it has come too close to home. The pain that many families suffer from knife and gun crime, knife especially in the United Kingdom, gun crime mainly in the United States of America and other places, has meant that many families now are living on tenterhooks. In the United Kingdom, cases have been growing, crimes, the statistics of knife crime have been growing, especially in urban areas like London and other urban areas like Manchester, Birmingham, Newcastle, and so on. While some of these cases are sort of sparse and here and there, they are not all over the place. In places like London now, they are becoming much more commonplace. A lot of times when we hear about such cases, they seem far because they have not affected someone that we directly know. It may be someone from the neighborhood, but probably we didn't get to know them. Problem is, once it gets too close, like it did over the last 2 weeks, within a spell of 2 weeks, we had 2 stabbings, one done by one, a son from within our own community, and then another stabbing done on one from within our community. This, of course, has rung a bell, but we've had people who have been victims of knife crime. Sometimes gangs and knife crime are sort of difficult to distance, but a lot of times you may find that you find people that are totally innocent away from these gangs, and yet they get caught up in problems or issues relating to knife crime and so on. So tonight, inshallah, we'll be trying to explore what do we do? What can we do? Sometimes it's difficult to avoid these circumstances, especially when someone finds themselves in a situation where, they become the victim of a knife crime where they had nothing to do with it. But probably that could also be mitigated. Is it possible that if people, for example, are walking to school, they make sure they're going to town, young people going to hang out a little bit in town, into a shopping center and so on, that they should stick together, because if you are one, the likelihood of being attacked is much more as opposed to if probably you are in a group. Is it possible that probably, like religion, some people have come up with suggestions saying we should take our children, religion is the way to go. Let's take them to madrasas, let's take them to church schools, where if they are part of that, the likelihood that they will get involved in such groups becomes less and less. Could that be the solution? I think it is important that we sort of look at an integrated approach beyond just looking at one single approach, and you'll find that there will be no one answer, no magic bullet that is going to deal with this situation. Tonight, I'd like to hear from parents who have, been the victims of this knife crime. Their children were killed, or you, a child, probably was involved. A lot of it comes with a lot of stigma. And a lot of times when we talk, we are talking about these young people, and it feels like probably they are the only ones who are suffering this. But the families have a huge toll to take on. The stigma that comes from within the community regarding, resulting from such an attack, for instance, becomes so huge. If you are the victim, probably it is understandable. But imagine if it is your own child, your own son, your own daughter who has gone out and stabbed someone. How do you move within the community? Do we have support networks in place? If we didn't, then this is the time to do so. Probably we might have looked at ourselves as a small community, but all of a sudden, reality is ringing home, and it is becoming more and more apparent that now we have to take action. There are so many parents who have left home, gone out, worked so hard. The idea of, bringing a TV at home, bringing nice food at home, trying to make life easier for everybody at home. So imagine that you end up in a situation where your own son, your own daughter gets stabbed because you are so busy out trying to make a life that they can no longer live. I think for every parent tonight, it will be a moment of reflection. I've heard from a parent who was saying, who lived with his son at home, a son that looked so respectful, so respecting, so respected, because the kind of approach or attitude or behavior that he displayed at home was totally different from what was going on outside. Because what happened, surprise, surprise, this parent comes face to face with the police coming inside the house, coming in to search. And the next thing is they bring the son from upstairs to downstairs with a knife, something that was totally alien to the parent. Do we even know what goes on in our children's lives? These are realities that we will have to face. And I would love to hear your own experiences. Do you think, what do you think we can do? What do we think we are not doing? Are there support systems, not only for the young people, but for their families? Are you a family that has been affected and have managed to live through a couple of years living with this and therefore can't share your experiences? This is what this program is about. It is about your expertise. You are the experts. We hear from you, your experiences. I would like to hear from young people. The journey between home and school and home can be quite, could be life-changing. In between that, a lot of things happen. Does your son end up getting dragged into a situation that could have been avoided? Do you feel as a parent that you feel that you could have done more that you haven't done? Is it too late for you to do something? It's never too late, I would say. Maybe if you couldn't save your own, you may be able to save someone else's child. The program is Come, Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. We are live on 75 W Radio. We are live on Ummah Connected. We are live on Facebook, on Zoom, and on YouTube, where we are streaming at the moment. Good to hear from you, your comments, if you can, on Facebook or even in the chat room. The way this program works for those newbies into the show, I'll just come to you. And if you have any experience, you may decide to raise your hand the Zoom way. Just click on that button on reactions, raise your hand, and then we'll be able to get your experiences. It would be very important to hear from you. Are you a community worker, a social worker who has dealt with issues, regarding or relating or going around knife crime, and therefore we might be able to feed into your experience? This is something that is for you tonight to help us understand. Why do people have to end up with knives? Is it possible to avoid gangs? Is it possible to actually stay out of them and still stay safe? What can we do? The program is yours, and let's just get cracking. Isma, we have that particular video, please. If we can bring it up, we just use it as a way of allowing people to sort of reflect, and then we can go deeper into the conversation. While I wait, I'll say, but Isma in the studio there, if we have that clip ready, please, would be happy to have it playing, which can get us deeper into the conversation. And it is your opportunity now to have a say. There are parents who have decided to take their children. You say you are taking them to Africa because, well, you are scared about the situation here. Africa is changing too fast as it is at the moment. It may not be knife crime. It may not be gun crime. It may be drugs. It may be things to do with sexual orientation also that is becoming a serious problem out there. So it will be very interesting just to hear from you. I think the clip is ready. Isma, we are ready for you when you are.
A tale of two Britons in one street in one town. People queue for a bus in Croydon. Alongside them, a floral tribute to the latest victim of knife crime. Stabbings no longer uncommon in many cities, but always devastating for those involved. Like the family of Eliane Andam, who visited the scene of her death yesterday. The 15-year-old had just got off a bus on her way to school on Wednesday morning. She was then stabbed. A 17-year-old boy who was allegedly known to her appeared in court this morning, charged with her murder. A few more details emerged in court. The prosecutor said that Eliane had been hanging out with two friends before school. And it's alleged that the 17-year-old had been wearing a mask and gloves and removed a large knife from his clothing before pursuing Eliane and then stabbing her. Like these A-level students, Eliane had dreams. She wanted to be a lawyer. So does Sophie, 2 years older than Eliane. She also lives in Croydon.
This is the norm, which it shouldn't be. This is what we have to go through as young people all the time, and seeing this on the news is, something that we've seen before and many times again, and it needs to stop.
Knife crime is all too real for these students. In 2021, one of their friends, Zion Amable-Lena, was stabbed to death. He was just 15. They say it's common for young people to carry knives these days.
It's not difficult to speak to someone and know that they have a knife on them. It's not strange to find out that they do in fact carry a knife.
How does that make you feel?
Sometimes it can be queasy, you don't know how they're going to use that. If we have an argument, are you going to use it, or is it just as a thing, as a show, just to protect yourself? But you have to be wary of all situations, every interaction with someone, just in case.
After the loss of a peer a few years ago, we are delighted to not only see our community come together, but also to see change in the form of this future youth centre.
Saffron and her friends are attending the launch of a new youth centre in Croydon. In the audience, Reese Placid. As a teenager, he carried a knife, but says he never used it. He now mentors young people in schools and prisons to try to stop them doing the same.
You don't need to tell a kid something, you need to understand why they're doing it and then break down that slowly but surely with them and then help them lead to the next stage of their life.
So why are people carrying weapons?
There's many factors: trauma, not having a father figure in the house, seeing crimes from a young age and thinking that it's okay and no one's told them that it's not okay. There's so many factors to it.
The youth centre, run by the Oasis charity, will open in the next 2 months. The aim is to provide a safe and nurturing place for teenagers at risk of exclusion and exploitation. But the charity's founder says support needs to start far earlier.
Early intervention, work hard at the roots. We've got to do that. And that, by the way, isn't about yet more money. It's about spending the budgets that we have wisely and developing policies wisely. Fix-it-quick solutions which sound glamorous are never long-term solutions.
In response, the government says its violence reduction units reached 250,000 vulnerable young people last year, and the banning of zombie-style knives will also help. But that'll do little to reassure families like Eliane's, who've lost the girl they say had such a bright future ahead of her.
Well, joining me now in the studio is Sace Holmes-Lewis, a London Police Board member and the founder of Mentivity, an organisation providing support for young people, schools, parents and carers. And also joining us is Dal Babu, a former Chief Superintendent in the Metropolitan Police. Thanks to both of you for coming in. I mean, this is always a very tragic and tricky subject, and we've debated it over and over again, and yet the debate seems to widen about why young men especially choose to have knives. Why?
There's a lot to unpick in this situation, because this is a process in which young people get to this point. And I think if we intervene at an earlier stage with these young people and provide the support that's needed, then we can prevent these things from happening.
In the community, in the family, in the schools? In
the community, the family, it's got to be a multifaceted approach in terms of supporting young people from a young age.
But are these conversations taking place? Because we've been talking about this for years now.
But it's about the support. There's a lot of organisations doing the work on the ground, but they're underfunded and underserved. And young people are also underserved within education and also within society.
Dal Babu, is the police equipped? Are they, trained enough in order to deal with the kind of very tricky psychology of persuading a young person that they don't need a knife for self-defence?
I think the simple answer is no. And
no.
And the lack of success and the increase of the problem demonstrates that the police can't do this alone. I think what we need to be looking at, and I've had many conversations with you, Matt, and your colleagues around these issues, and we're here today still talking about knife crimes. The problem has actually become much more substantial. What we need to be doing is look at how ingrained that problem is. I think it's wrong to say...
Is it poverty? Is it, the lack of youth clubs shut down during austerity? Is it 20% truancy in schools? I mean, what are the factors that have made this so difficult to
Well,
deal with?
I think it's all of those factors, but I think the key thing is about resources. We've lost 20,000 police officers. We've lost 18,500 police staff. So a quarter of all the police officers in the country have less than 5 years experience. But I think what we need to be doing is saying, yes, the police have a role, but by the time the police get involved, the problem has become escalated. We need to go back and we need to invest in schools, we need to invest in youth clubs, we need to invest in community groups, and that's not happening.
So I mean, do some young people feel they need to protect themselves with a weapon because they can't rely on the police to protect them? Is it as simple as that?
That's a major factor, but it's not as simple as that. As I said, there's multi-dimensions to this issue. But in terms of providing support for young people and also support for the police to do their job, we have to build relationships, which have never been there in terms of the police and certain facets of the community. Yeah. But again, we have to have a public health approach to the issues that we're facing, just the same as we had in Glasgow. We've got to have the same approach here. We can't keep throwing money at the same organisations. The community has the solutions.
The trust, I think the trust element is really true.
Yeah.
Trust has never been lower in the history of policing. It's the lowest level it's ever been. And some communities are more concerned about being over-policed and under-protected. Mm-hmm. So, for example, the trust level for the black community is at the lowest level it's been, much, much lower than for Asian communities and white communities.
So you can have lots of police officers on the streets in black communities, but they still won't feel protected by them, and therefore they still feel the need to carry their own weapons.
Well, I think the difficulty you've got here is that we need to understand that trust is the bedrock of policing. If that trust is missing, then you're not going to have people coming forward, giving information, giving intelligence that then leads to the individuals who carry the knives being dealt with. And we've seen this happening. We've seen over the last few years, we've seen that trust go down, down and down, and we've not seen the police understand how important trust is.
What about a simple measure, like making it even more difficult to buy knives? I know there's been legislation put in place in recent years, but making that much tougher.
Yeah, that would help, again. But
why hasn't that happened?
To be honest, I can't answer that question. However, what we've got to do is actually work with our young people and the families and those involved that are often in survival mode because of these situations of poverty, of deprivation. So we've got to find solutions in conjunction with families, in conjunction with the police. As Sir Robert Peel said, the police are the public and the public are the police. And we need to have respect, which now will build trust in communities to actually bring these people to justice.
And if those people who want weapons, those young men, mostly young men, but not exclusively, can't buy big knives, do they just use a screwdriver? Do they use a do they use a kitchen knife, a small one?
That's the danger. So you know, the authorities have been very slow in banning the knives on the internet. So you can get a zombie knife. The age restrictions are very poorly managed. So there's a lot for the internet companies to look at what they're doing. I think the difficulty still is that we don't really have a good understanding of the problem. We don't have the intelligence around this. This is not a gang issue anymore. This is we're seeing more and more young people, whether it's around issues around...
And that makes it even worse. If it's not, I mean, gang issues aren't great, but if it's not a gang issue, there's no level of control there from any organisation other than
It's a
society.
pandemic of violence. It's a pandemic of violence. As I said, the community have the solutions. We are trusted in the community to do the work and to intervene at an early stage before the police come into play at the end of the spectrum. So we have the solutions. We need to fund organisations.
This is really depressing. Can you tell me anything positive that's on the horizon that might make this any better?
We are saving lives in terms of the work that we're doing day to day. We want to get behind Mentivity, other organisations like Power to Fight, Forefront. There's so many organisations out there doing their work.
I think shining a light and holding people to account is really important.
Okay.
And I really welcome you asking some difficult questions, but it's about asking those difficult questions of those people who've got the resources and who make the decisions about where they're deployed.
Definitely.
Got
to leave it there. Dadabu says Holmes Lewis, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, Bwana Isma, there in the studios. I'm sure anyone watching this, and I allowed it to play too long, so
the Metropolitan Police.
I won't apologize for the length in terms of playing, but because the kind of discussion that they raised here is what we are actually going to be facing today. Some of the very questions that I was thinking about are the very questions that have been asked. And the dilemma is where we find ourselves now as a community. How do we deal with that? And we should try as well to sort of extend it beyond the United Kingdom, go to the United States, because they are also dealing with gun crime, especially, children or students breaking into schools and then mass murders taking place, or mass shootings taking place in schools, just as it is on the streets. Well, of course, now it is back to you now. You've just had the kind of challenge that we have to deal with. It was gang related initially, but now it is going beyond the gangs. Ismo, if you can get that off our sharing screen, please, so that then I can get to see our audience much better. So now I'm opening the microphones to you, and if you have any particular experience of this, well, the knife crime, I lost a friend, lost a son, lost a daughter, or probably they were actually involved in this. Please, it would be very nice to hear from you, sharing your particular experiences. Or if you are the Shylock who is not able to actually come on on air, you might as well just use the chat room. Just go to the chat, click there, just click on the chat and be able to share. And I can see Tamim's Legacy's hand already up. Thank you very much, Tamim. You will go first. Please go ahead. First of all, your reaction to the latest situation in terms of what has been happening within our communities. Hello, Tamim.
Yeah, hi. I'm not Tamim. I'm Tamim's mother. So
Tamim's mother. Thank you very much.
Tamim is
Tamim's mother. Yes, welcome.
Who was killed 2 years ago in 2021.
I beg your pardon?
Tamim is my son who was killed 2 years ago in Woolwich Center when he was coming.
I'm sorry to hear that. Yes.
And it was about knife crime as well. So.
Where did that happen?
In Woolwich.
Oh, is that the one in Woolwich? Oh, okay. Oh, yes. I've been meaning to speak to you, but you had traveled the last time I was trying to reach out to you. Yes, okay. You had traveled, and when you came back, I also ended up getting too busy. Well, first, to tell us about Tamim, what exactly happened? Was he part of a gang, or was he an innocent bystander?
And the weirdest thing is that he kind of having the same story with this girl who was murdered a few days ago, Ediana, because Tamim was coming from school, but he was called with his friends. He was following his friend in Woolwich, going to the shops. So it was kind of like, well, I don't like using that term, wrong place, wrong time, but that's how it was. And the two groups that had a fight 9 days before, like a revenge. So it happened that there is one of them who studied in Harris Academy with Tamim. He was involved. So Tamim was watching the fight with everyone else. But there was this boy who didn't know him, who just I think he was paranoid because Tamim was in the back. So when they just opened the weapons, Tamim wanted to run behind the two cars. You can see on the CCTV and everything. That's when the boy turned on him and he just stabbed him on his neck.
And that was multiple stabs, or was it a single?
No, it was only one wound, the one stab.
And so it is, well, the word that you don't like using, but which you have used, which is being in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Yeah.
Was Tamim ever, part of any of the groups? Because you mentioned two groups that had a fight 2 weeks before, and then they had come for revenge.
It just happened that he went. I think that was he was his day, and unfortunately, he wasn't part of anything. But also, there is some of the kids who was at the same school. One of them was in the same school who had a fight before, who was involved in that fight. So they was watching like everyone else, but this boy turned on my son and just stabbed him. So it was kind of a revenge thing with kids from Deptford and other one who are from Woolwich. And Tamim doesn't live in Woolwich anyway. He lives in Lee. But because he went with his friend, just saying like, oh, let's go together. And it looks like there was a fight and they was all going to just watch the fight, something like that. So, but then again, why I said that it's kind of the same story with Eliane, is that the way Eliane just had to be the one who's losing their life because of her friend, because of what her friend know. And that is really hard to just get it again. So, but also I'm just thinking one thing, because I've got an organization now at the moment, since passed away, it's I speak to so many people and I kind of understand things now the way
much better than you did before.
But also,
I'll talk about the organization because I think it will be an opportunity for people to know about this organization and probably how they can be, well, contribute to it or benefit from it. Initially, I just want to take you back those 2 painful years. When the news reached, how did you hear about the attack?
yeah, first of all, it's the way you receive the news, first of all. You see, like, when you receive that kind of news, there is people who's supposed to tell you that news. But unfortunately, the way I found out the news is the boy who came to my door, and then he said that Tamim got stabbed. And then I asked where. They said Woolwich. In my head, I'm like, Woolwich? Okay. One thing that came on my mind was that go to Queen Elizabeth Hospital because it's in Woolwich. Because I don't know Woolwich really, but I have to go to the hospital. And it was those pandemic days, and it was a bit slow and everything. But I could see at the reception that this lady doesn't have anyone who got stabbed. So she asked me to wait there. So while I was waiting, I went with the boy who came to my door, and I was telling him, like, you just tell my neighbor that my son got stabbed if there is anything that really happened, so she can be here with me. So when I was standing there, I stood there like for 45 minutes. But because sometimes to the emergency room, there is no a good reception. Everyone was calling me, but I didn't know why they was calling me. So apparently there was a video that went viral because where he was stabbed and where he died, it's a different place because he had his wound and he just ran. And then he died on a lady who called me a few months ago, saying that Tamim died on my arms. So if you want to talk, you can come to me on the pavement on the, what's called, New Road or New Woolwich, in Woolwich. So that's where he passed away. So when all that time I was waiting there, he didn't die straight away. So no one came to my door. It was just all over social media, people taking videos and everything. And then after my neighbor came to me, we was together waiting. I'm like, I don't think Tamim is here. And I just happened to see 3 officers, police officers. And then I went to them, I ran to them, and I asked them that I do have a problem. Apparently my son was stabbed, but I don't know if he's here. But if you got any news, can you just tell me? And they just went, they said, okay, can you give us details, description, whatever? And I gave it to them. And then they were just looking at each other. I could see, like, you know what, this is the thing that's in the news. Like, my son is gone. But before that, my son's daughter told me, like, there's a video. If you see it, don't watch it. I said, like, no, I need to watch. And then she said, no, are you sure? I said, yeah, I'm sure. But when I saw him on the pavement in Woolwich, in my head, I was like, nah, I'm not going to continue. It was like for a few seconds I watched. I was like, nah, I'm not going to continue watching this. I just know my son is gone. But then again, like, because I'm in denial at the same time, I was like, oh my God, no, I can't see this happening. But also it can happen. As a Muslim, I believe in this. Like, anyone can die. Like, if it's his day, it's his day. But I was like, yeah, please help me. If he died, I really need to be strong. I need to be strong for my other boys. And I'm like, okay, whatever. So I spoke to the police officers, and then they looked at each other, and they said, unfortunately, your son, I don't remember everything else they said after that, but it was like he died. So straight away, his dad called for those kind of minutes because he lived abroad. And I just watched the phone call. I'm like, oh, I don't think anyone deserves to hear this kind of news, especially when you're abroad. So I just, like, a police officer said that, can you just tell his dad that his son died? And then he was like, okay. But my neighbor also, she collapsed. So I was the one who was just like comforting her, like she was like going hysterical and everything. So I just said, like, oh, can you just wait, just bring her in a car so I can take her home? I said, no, you can't drive. We'll drive you. So I spoke to, and I started calling my some of my close family here in London, who lives in Croydon. Another one some Egyptian that we always kind of like really, really close together. And then they was like, oh, no, 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 no. But it looks like everyone else knew that my son passed away, but I didn't. And that did hurt me for a while because I felt like the police was there. First of all, my son had a backpack in his on his back. He had his name on it. If it was professional, one thing they should think about is calling the school because it's Harris Academy. He's got his badge and everything. At least they can call me on my phone like something happened this place. I kind of like until now I'm not happy with that. So then I came home, and then everyone else was home before me. It looks like they knew already for a long time. Like so many people was at home. So I just went and I just had to pray and then came back and just kind of like I was in shock. I didn't cry. I was in shock. I prayed. I'm like, okay, I just have to think about my other kids. And normally as the way I am when I'm stressful, I sleep a lot, but that was the first night I never slept because my son doesn't do sleepovers without me or the family I just trust. But that day was really hard. So it just happened that I had a friend who was kind of like pushing me to sleep, giving me milk, lots of milk and everything. Thank God, alhamdulillah. But really, It was really the day that, and I come from where I lost so many siblings and the mother and the father, but losing a child, especially in these kind of circumstances, is really different.
Now, how did the other children cope? Especially saying that you were trying to be stronger, especially for the other remaining children. Did you feel a kind of fear of even allowing your children to go out, given the circumstances under which Tamim had died?
And that's the thing that I blame so many people into this because when you are in that situation, it's overwhelming already. And everyone keeps telling you like, oh, you've got this support, this organization, there is this police. Well, going back, that night, I never had anyone, a liaison officer to come to me. I just had to my friends happened to be here, going to chase them at the police station because I wanted answers. I wanted to know where my son was. That was a struggle for me. Secondly, after that, they just wanted to put social services and everything, which is not bad, because there's nothing they can just say against me about my kids. But also is the way they're giving you that hope that, oh, we're here for you. But when you want them really, they are not really there. So there's so many organizations that I saw and I was like, you know what, leave it. But my son, especially the middle one, he struggled a lot. But because sometimes like the way boys are coping and the way girls are coping in problems is different. Boys don't normally talk.
Yes.
And also is the thing that was his role model. That was his big brother. And also is going to the same school, not seeing him. And because he went so viral, like even now, like I can just go on the street and like, oh, you Tamim's mother. So his little brother, even like when I was doing the videos, campaigning, I never put them on social media because I didn't want them to be reminded that these are Tamim's brothers. Yeah, so he struggled a lot.
How are they coping 2 years on?
Now it's getting a little bit better. More than I can say these 2 months because I sent him abroad and then he was there seeing like different things and I know where he can go and be happy. But when he comes back home, it was kind of like he wanted to isolate himself a lot and no talking. So I had to take him out from school and I homeschooled him and everything. So it was really hard.
Yeah. And how did you cope yourself? Because first of all, even trusting the system to be able to be there for you, but also allowing the children to go back into school and for you to you are almost on tenterhooks all the time, from the time they leave home to the time that they come back until they have come back.
Yeah.
That can't be in the right place.
You know what? You know, when you are not in my position, and God forbid, I don't want anyone to be in my position, no one can really understand, because you can just tell me, oh, you know what, you're a Muslim and whatever. Yes, I'm a Muslim, but even the Prophet cried, you know, and he's the one who just like was kind of perfect. I'm not perfect. I'm just a mom, you know, a regular mom, a normal mom. But I have to just train myself to be like, okay, to have that hope, like, oh, I'm a Muslim and, you know, well, my son is in a better place and whatever. But these 2 years, I think the more days are going, the more I suffer, because I was hoping like, oh, I hope in 6 months I'll feel better. But it's no, I just have to just take each day as it comes, because that was my firstborn. And then I was a single mom. And then there is that thing that you see, you feel like, you know what, I'm going to leave everything so I can focus on my kids so they can be better. And also you seeing your son just being better, respecting you, he's a good boy and everything. Someone come and take away your son. He wasn't ill. He never had cancer. He wasn't diabetes. He was just a kid who was coming from school. How can you just think like, oh, you know what? People, I think people talk a lot, and I had a good experience because I had a lot of support, alhamdulillah, but also there was so many negativity about how things should be done. You know, the question like, is he in a gang? Is he what? You know, if you don't have anything to say, nice to say, you just don't say anything at all, because this mom is vulnerable at the moment. You know, and you don't know the story. So everyone was expecting that. And thank God he went to court, he went viral. So my son was cleaning anyway, and I'm so proud of him. But also is the way the system worked when it comes to this. Is community, how they don't understand the situation. They don't even want to learn from it. It's like, okay, maybe it happened to Hawa. It won't happen to me. It can happen to anyone, because mine wasn't into anything. You know, so this
was the culprit ever arrested? Was he ever jailed? Was he caught? The person who stabbed him?
No, like social services is clean. He never was arrested. There's nothing really. So just like those questions, people, that's who I can understand where they're coming from, because we don't want to know these things until it happens to us. But you can't just like, oh, was he in a gang? Why is it the first thing that you think about? This is the human being who was killed.
That's a kind of profiling that normally takes place. But
Yeah.
now, for you as a parent, you've established Tamim's legacy as a foundation in which you've tried to help other people in this. First of all, the fact that this person who stabbed your son has never been arrested, does that make closure difficult for you?
No, everyone who got involved was arrested, because thank God, one thing Woolwich got, they've got so many cameras. And the boy who stabbed my son, I heard you speaking about people sending kids home. I disagree with those kind of things, because listen, this is our kids. Most of them was born here. And in Africa, they don't really understand them here, how their mind works. But also, there is so many parents here who don't even understand their kids, because they don't understand the system. They don't know the streets. So for some reason, you're sending away your son, thinking like, oh, he's going to be okay there without you. I think it's a big mistake, because I know more than 10 kids who was, as these young kids say, like shipped in Africa. When they come back, they're becoming worse. Because even the boy who killed my son, he's a Nigerian. He was bad here, but he wasn't well behaved. He went back home. Apparently, they abused him.
Yes.
When he came back, he's an angry boy. And his brother, he's really the same, because the way he was what he was doing in a courtroom when I was there already, you can see that that's not a good family. And this thing about saying like, okay, broken families, what is broken families? Not because one is raising the kids means it's a broken family. You can be two of you, and it's just like a bad relationship. It always affects kids. So these things about two people, yes, educating the kids, and you can be one and be good more than two people.
Okay, Tamim's mom, now I'll come to probably let's talk about the foundation that you established now and what you are aiming to do.
Yeah,
And of course, there are lots of messages coming in the chat room for you. Hasfaka Suja is saying, may Allah continue to strengthen you. NK is saying, may Allah guide you in this difficult testing time of losing your son. And Ummu Alia also says, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi rajiun. Yes, about the foundation now, Tamim's mom.
So this is the thing, like people who are struggling most, it's not only me, it's the whole community, because Tamim legacy, first of all, is to unite the community, to educate our youth to put down their weapons and provide holistic support for victims of knife crime and their families. Because I work with so many moms, and I can say, really, if you see, most of them are kind of got mental health issues now, because there is that thing about not accepting that your kid is gone, and there is anger, there is really a sadness in them. I'm not sure how they're gonna get cured, but it just happened. Like, everyone wanna talk to me and think like I'm strong, but I'm not, because I do have my days that I feel like no, I can't continue, but I just have to keep being positive. But that's the thing that so many moms doesn't have. So there's not so many dads, but so many moms. And also I happen to just have a group of like more than 46 youth that I speak to every time. This was like Tamim's friend from primary school, secondary school, who really are so supportive. There is a positivity into this. So many kids don't want to be into this. When I talk to them, I just open up. I'm just telling them, like, you know what, we're here and everything. You can just talk. Sometimes you can see that they really struggle to talk to their own parents.
Yes.
Yeah, because they say, they don't understand.
So I can only thank you so much because, I mean, you've opened the conversation with such a powerful testimony. It makes it really difficult for anybody else to sort of, unless they've been through a similar experience, of coming. But I've seen messages here in the chat room asking, where can we, as a community, start from, and how can we get in touch with for people who might want at least to sort of, either help or learn something from the experiences that you've gone through. Because on the show tonight, people who have been through similar situations. Yes.
Yeah, I can put my number there. I can put also
Please, if you can go in the chat room and just place it on the chat room, the link there. Probably if there's a link to Tamim's, the foundation, that might also come quite handy.
Yeah, I'll do that. I'll just put everything there. No worries. Thank you for having me as well.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much, and stay on. Well, the program, if you've just joined us, the program is Come Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. And we are live on 75 Radio. We are live on Ummah. This program is streaming at the moment. Very powerful submission here from a mother who lost a son 2 years ago. I'm sure many of you in London and across much of the United Kingdom, you might have seen that video that went viral in Woolwich of a boy that was stabbed, being in the wrong place at the wrong time, never part of a gang, but then being in the wrong circumstances. Or, as Qadar would have it, Ajal, as we call it, in that particular place. Well, remember, we are talking about knife crime and what we can do. A question from Hasfaka Swida was, is parents who say take kids to Muslim or private schools, is this a solution? How before probably you go, Tamim's mom, could you please just respond to this thing, just taking children to this? And I'm sure this is one that we'll definitely explore a little bit further. But in your experience, do you think taking children, say, to madrasas or Muslim schools or church schools could be something?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, really, because it's just that sometimes the way things are, and we all can't afford to go private. But I would just beg anyone who can just take their kids to private school, because these schools, public school, they are just here to just ruin our kids for real. It's just like It's not really good. I work with schools and everything. The what I see there, our kids go to identities. The one you see at home and the one you see at school are so different. And we both know that money talks. And when you're just sending to private school, it looks like, okay, it's people who earn a little bit more. So that influence on them with those kids and their parents is much better than public school. That's what I think.
Thank you very much. And I will keep dropping in. I'm sure if there are questions that come up that require intervention, you'll be able to also respond to that. Thank you very much, our submission, very powerful submission. But let's just open the conversation now to you. It may be that you have not seen this, but it happened within the vicinity. There are people who live around Woolwich. I think I've seen Umu Shakil here. Umu Shakil, are you there? Because you live in Woolwich, and I remember the time of, yes, I remember the time when this particular incident happened. It shook the community there. Well, there's Umu Alia also asking about homeschooling. I think that's one we'll also try to explore. But I'm wondering, I'm in two hearts about homeschooling. Sometimes I almost feel like children are sort of taken away from the realities of life outside, or what the benefits that come with the environment in school. Umu Shakil, are you there?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa
barakatuh. How are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
You live in Wood. This was really at the heart of, where this particular incident 2 years ago happened. And you are the mother to 3 boys. First of all, your reaction as a mother to this particular situation when it happened, or even to knife crime in general, as we talk about it now, given the fresh situations that we are dealing with now.
First of all, inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. May Allah make you strong, Sister Hawa, and your family. It's never easy wherever it appears, whether it's in Woolwich, so close or far away, it's still knife crime. And the impact, the way it shakes you, to me, the way it shakes me, wherever it is, however far it is, it's still the same. Even hearing like just innocent lives being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And considering that our children have grown into this, you can't even protect them enough because they feel like, Mom, I think you're paranoid now. You're taking away their freedom because of your fear. To them, this is what they've grown into. But it's never easy. Whenever you hear a stabbing, a murder, it just takes you. I remember during those times, like you said, I have 3 boys, my eldest. Sometimes you walk with him on the streets and then you're at night and then you're thinking, should I just walk in front of him? Should I walk behind him? Where should I be? Is someone watching him? It's just really hard. It's very, very hard. It's never easy. It's very hard. And I don't know if I'm still on. Can you hear me?
Yes, you are still on. I'm just wondering as well. I'd asked the question when this particular incident happened in Woolwich, what your reaction was. Did you become much more guarded? Did you become much more protective of your children? Did you have a talk? And actually, by the way, you are also a teacher, which also places you in a sort of a center stage in all of this. Yes.
Yeah.
Were there any measures that you introduced?
To be honest, let me tell you, this is the honest truth. I'm talking as a parent. I'm talking as a parent to Black children. I'm talking as a teacher, witnessing the way our children are growing up, reaching year 5, year 6, and the way they resolve their conflicts and the hatred they have, whether it's coming from home, they don't know how to resolve conflicts. So it's just a simple spark of something that to them, they are looking at something else, looking at the coolness. Oh, I'm doing this. I cannot, Kassim, I cannot even, I don't know what the public needs to do, but educating Black children, because Black children are killing Black children. This is not Black children killing Black children. This is what it is. And don't think the other people, if something is not affecting our community, the community is not going to give much of a concern or much of a worry to it. So we need to educate our Black children, to give them that, to understand that you need to protect yourselves, not attack each other, like be there for each other. That's all. Because with me, even if it's a simple fight at school over a toy or something, I don't talk small talk. My school knows me. Come year 6, year 7, year 5, year 6, it's not small talk, because I've seen it on the streets. I'm raising Black boys. I tell them this is how it starts. They will, some of the teachers will go beat about the bush because they're very careful of what to say. I'm always open there. I'm like, there's no early age for these children to know this, because it's happening. It's really happening. So when the Woolwich murder, stabbing happened, you're asking me whether I guarded my boys more.
Yes, if there are particular measures that you took that were different from how you had been, like looking after them or protecting them, for that matter.
I'm going to say there's nothing much that I did that I didn't do before, because apart from what we hear, Woolwich is always not a good ground for any children to go. But it also depends on a child. I'm not saying the children are bad, but some children are very outgoing, very trusting. Even if you protect them enough, they will still say, oh, I'm going to Woolwich just in the shop, not with no intention at all to cause harm. For them, they're there. They think it's hanging out. I'll go to the shop. Remember, we've been children before, like a meeting place. So whatever you do, it also depends on the particular child you're raising. You could be raising 2 different children, same dad, same mom, same upbringing and everything, and they're turning out different.
Absolutely. So, and Woolwich has been beautified. It is not the Woolwich of the 2003, 2005 as we knew it. It's really beautiful. It's become an attraction that sort of wants people to go and hang out there in the public spaces. The park opposite Tesco, the bank side. There's a lot that is going on there that could be an attraction. Okay, Shakil, thank you very much. Very, very much. Much appreciated.
Assalamu
alaikum. Salam.
I would like to ask Shakir. She said, question is, we have to teach the kids to protect themselves. In the clip you saw, one of the gentlemen who does the outreach in the community said they walk with the knives to also protect themselves. So what are the measures being used to teach these kids to protect themselves? Someone comes with a knife. What do you do? What are they teaching these kids? What measures are they giving these kids? Because with a knife, you don't know. They hide. Like, you come with a knife, I'm going to come with a knife.
To be honest, in primary schools, they don't give them that protection or that guidance of, they beat around the bush. And I will tell you, I'll be really honest, when you look at the percentage of Black teachers in a primary school, the percentage is very low. And most of them are there, I do my job, do your job, get paid, go out. You understand? So the concern of how to empower them is not there. When I talked about teaching children to protect themselves, is the children, well, maybe I worded it wrong, but it's children, teach them loving one another. Like, they're not your enemies. Don't expect an enemy. Go on guard. No. Teaching, I worded it wrong, because when I said protecting yourself, I didn't mean in terms of, oh, you're out there, you're protecting yourself. No, but I'm saying teach children more loving one another, self-love and love one another. That's what I thought, because there's so much hatred in the Black community among children, teenagers, so much hatred and rivalry.
Yes, and there's actually a clip that has just been shared to me. I've watched it before, but Hajat Farida has shared it. Thank you very much, Hajat Farida. You just sent me a clip. I'm sure some of you have seen it. The stop and search in Cricklewood that actually revealed a very huge machete that this child was carrying, this young man was carrying. It's been also going viral around the system, but it's this whole, because now it has become very complicated. Even in that particular conversation on the clip that we played, it has got to a point where gangs were difficult to deal with, but at least you knew it was a gang. Now it's gone out of gangs and it's gone in the video. And you're almost now seeking now Allah's intervention in this matter. It's becoming a lot more complicated as you know, as we dig deep, making it very difficult to even have an intervention. For people who are asking for Tamim's legacy, how was contact? It's Instagram, it's Tamim_legacy, or Twitter, Tamim's legacy on that. And Abdallah Dumba was asking Tamim's mom, had you received any complaints or concerns from your son before the stabbing? And if yes, what was your intervention? Like we said, Sheikh Abdallah, probably you missed this. Tamim was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. He was not part of a group or any complaints. It was just meant for somebody else, and the son was just in that place. Or I think the message had already been responded to. I'd never had that kind of concern. Yes, that has been addressed. Okay, next, please. Let's hear more from your experiences regarding this situation. I can see more people have joined the conversation. If you've just joined us, we are talking about knife crime and gun crime, actually. Why don't we cross to the United States and also get a feeling? Because while we are talking a lot about knife crime in the United Kingdom, there is an issue surrounding gun crime as well in the US, which is kind of related in one way or another. Sheikh Abdallah Dumba, I'd like to bring you on. Sister Haswa as well. You are in the midst of all of this and therefore have to deal with this on a daily basis. Abdallah Dumba, if you can go ahead, please. How is the situation there and how are you coping as a community?
Well, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Pleasure.
May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward you abundantly, inshallah. So for Sister Tamim's mom, so much sorry to hear about that news. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make you much more stronger, inshallah, and beneficial to the community, and probably be an education center to deal with this, inshallah. What is happening in the US today? Well, what happened 2 weeks ago in the UK is not far from happening in the US today. And as I heard about that news, actually, I spoke to you and I spoke to Sheikh Ali Senkuge, who informed me that there was stabbing in that nature. I also spoke to one of my community members here, Sheikh Ali Bukenya. He told me that I think in Maryland, what happened recently was that a son of a brother from Senegal picked up a gun and went shot his mom and dad dead. He killed both of them. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un.
Was he under the influence of any drugs or?
So I don't know the details of what was influencing him,
right. Mm-hmm.
But the fact that someone was carrying a gun, there must be an influence. That's a red flag right there and then. So that's what you're experiencing today. So what is happening in the UK is similar to what is happening in the US. The difference is that someone in the UK is using a knife, and here we are using guns. And Tamim's mom spoke about, I think someone spoke about trauma in the video that you showed us before. Someone spoke about trauma. And this is why I came in with my question to Tamim's mom. Did you have any complaint from or concerns from your son revealing to you that there was something of this nature? Fortunately, he told me he was just in the wrong place. But there are some concerns that are concerning our kids today that we need to do anything possible, everything possible to intervene earlier so they don't happen to be caught in wrong areas, just like Tamim was found. But may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us go forward with this discussion, inshallah. and probably cultivate or pave ways or find an intervention point, inshallah, as to how we can protect our youth, inshallah. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
I mean, Abdullah, before you go, I mean, I'm just wondering within the US, because now a lot of the things that have been happening, we've been looking at them as things that are outside, that each time it's happened, it looked like it was just sort of an accidental thing. But our communities now, with the times that we have spent in the diaspora, our communities are growing. And by growing, it means now, with the bigger numbers, the possibility that something will happen within our own communities is becoming much wider. And it's already beginning to happen. Do you have mechanisms in the US as a community to sort of deal with this? Do you have any mechanisms that have been set in place, or that is now the brainstorming that needs to start happening?
Actually, the last part is what I'm focusing on right now. The brainstorming is required at this point for us to identify, to get to know. I mean, through brainstorming, I think we shall get to the mode of awareness, whereby everyone will know that this is something that you're living as a reality here in the US, probably, and in the UK. Back in the days, we used to think that we are just here for a moment and we are going back to Uganda.
Yes.
Unfortunately, after 20 years, we have kids who are 20 years old. Yeah. Now, these kids are no longer going to be taken to Uganda. It's a no-no. As a matter of fact, we try our best to bring them to Uganda so they can pop up and learn some cultures from Uganda. Unfortunately, if they don't want to do that, if you don't sweet talk your kid to go to Uganda, if you don't have a better plan shared with your kid, this kid, as you leave Uganda, you're going to find yourself on the same plane coming back, whether you have the passport or they don't have the passport. They are going to be on the same plane coming back to the US. So they are so smart, they are so clever, and they are doing everything based on their age. In order for us to stop that, or probably mitigate it, I think we need to make some plans to intervene as early as possible. The beginning of the intervention is the awareness. So what I did, I'm concerned about this these days as a parent. And I did contact one of our community leaders here, Mr. Simple, and I also contacted one of our sisters. She's the Uganda, I'm forgetting the title, but she's a trained soldier, but also a community leader who knows much more about the law, to sort of find a way to intervene and get to know what our kids are doing. Unfortunately, they all told me that we have to bring our kids to where we go. In other words, like, we are policing them, we are moving them, we take them to mosques, we take them to churches, we take them to Gwangamuji. And I was in disagreement on this. I said, we bring our kids to mosques, at least for the Muslims. But those kids that we brought to Muslims, to church, to mosques, to teach them the Quran, are the very kids that we find on streets, doing something inevitable, doing something unacceptable. Now, that means that we have to do more. Why did we bring them? How come we brought them to mosques, taught them the Quran, taught them Salah, taught them the teachings of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, yet the end result is different? We must find a solution to this. So the awareness will come along with some plans, inshallah, if we can listen to ourselves as parents, but also involve our kids to get to know exactly what they are doing, what do they need, so we can find a better solution to them, inshallah.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much. In the United States. Now, of course, now this must bring workers, social workers who are having to deal with some of these particular cases, in these particular cases. Jaden, you are a social worker. You worked with communities. Has the issue of knife crime been at the top of your agenda at any point? Has it been a worry for you, or you think it is kind of an isolated incident?
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, Brother Kassim. To begin with, I will start by saying Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun to all those families who have been caught up in this misfortune. It's Allah's will, but we've got to do something. Secondly, I'm no longer a social worker. That's a protected title. I can't use it, but I worked as a social worker.
Yes.
Yes, I worked as a social worker with kids from the age of 16 to 21. And most of these kids are disturbed kids. But they mix with our kids because they go to the same school, they attend the same community facilities, they go and hang out, what they call hanging out in the streets with these same children. And the influence is so bad that you can take your child to the school, to the mosque day and night. You can take your child to catechism school. You can wrap your child in any way, but that influence from the community in this within the youngsters is so big. And personally, I don't know how we would resolve that problem. Because if you remember when we were growing up, for those of us who grew up in the villages, there was a culture among children of a certain age that you do things, if you reflect on it now, you cringe and say, why did I do those things? But at that time, it was good. Your parents would cane you, but the next day you'd go back and do the same things. So that was part of growing up for us then. Now the culture is different. It's either knives here in the UK or guns in Germany and in the United States. To them, that is part of the normal. And we adults, we don't seem to understand that. We are looking at the back end of it, a child lying in the street, and we're asking ourselves, why is that child dead, or why have they been knifed? But we don't put that responsibility to ourselves. Your child comes back from school with a big backpack, and you don't ask him what he's got in that backpack. He comes and behaves suspiciously, and you might be eating with the rest of the family, and this child will rush straight to their bedroom. And as an adult, you can tell if a child is fidgeting and hiding something, because we've been there. The eye look will be different. And why are you rushing to your bedroom to change so quickly? So we don't take time to inspect and take interest in what our children are carrying in their bag.
Would it be easy, Jaden, to inspect a 16, 17-year-old whose adrenaline is so high now and thinking they are independent, they are adults at 17 and 18?
That is the problem. But there's a problem. I mean, there's a way you can inspect, because if he's got a card and he's using it to buy a knife online, you can check the transactions on the card. The other one is you can monitor the kind of behaviors, because carrying a knife is not something very simple. You know, you easily give yourself away. Either you put it at the bottom of your backpack and something will tell you that you as a parent that my son has got something which is wrong there. He doesn't want to take breakfast in the morning and he's off like a bullet. And when I say son, I mean daughter as well, because even girls are involved in those activities. Because here in the Northeast, people use the girl child to carry drugs and to carry knives for them, because those are the children who are less likely to be stopped by the police. So they are equally involved in that. Now, on the side of the government, what I would suggest, one is to put the restrictions on online use of the card, so that if somebody is going to use a knife to buy a knife from a hardware store. There should be a way of tracking where that knife is being delivered. I know we are low on resources, but there should be a way of tracking where the knife is going to be delivered. And if it is the so-called zombie knives and it's delivered to address ABC, then the police can come and make inquiries. A knife was delivered in this address. Did you, the parent, order that knife? So something along that. But my worry as an adult, as a parent, is that we are fighting a losing battle. It's almost like a catch-22 situation. If we put restrictions on our children, carry them around, wrap them in cotton wool, they get bullied when they go out to school. They become a target by the other children. If we ask the police to put a lot more boots on the ground, then we as the Black community get the back end of it, because we get searched more because of who we are. So what can we do? Where is the solution?
Where is the solution?
As a social worker, they used to give us pagers, because we'd go and visit these children in their homes, and these are children who are agitated, these are children who have got adrenaline and angry most of the time. So they know there's a problem with these children, to the point that you are given that protection. But sometimes it's too late. By the time you press that button, you're already on the receiving end of the knife. And sadly, a few of my colleagues have found themselves in those positions. And it's difficult to control the knife problem. Wow. So it's out to the community, it's out to the parents that we keep our eyes open for our children. And
it's very easy to say. It's very easy to say, as parents, we should take on our responsibilities and try and put in place checks and balances. How do you respond to, say, Shakil, who says our children have our parents online? You may do all, but that parent online tells them a different thing, and then they trust their parents online more than they would trust you as a parent.
I think the element of trust, the element of trust should be taken with a pinch of salt, because I would rather my child calls me the bully father and loses trust in me, but not minimize my keeping an eye on them. Because if you are going to mistrust the child, then they are going to devise more ways of avoiding you. So they'll be one step ahead of you.
All right. Thank you very, very much, Jaden. Stay there. We'll just come back to you because I can see more hands coming up. I'd like to hear from the youth, but I've seen Abdullah Dumba's hand back. So Abdullah, I'll allow you to come in while we get the UMC Youth UK to sort of come in, because as the youth, because this is all rotating around the young people, probably it would help to hear what is in the mindset of a young person to help us even find solutions probably as to why they've ended up where they are at. So before we go to the UMC youth, Abdullah Dumba, yes, you are back.
Thank you so much again for this opportunity. I just want to allude to some points that our brother has touched. You spoke about, you spoke about a parent being observant and probably sort of policing the kid and probably asking the kid, what are you carrying? May I check and search your bag? Now, I don't know what the law says in the UK, but here in the US, I'm not very much knowledgeable, but I know that a kid, once they are 18, you cannot search his bag. This is your biological son or daughter. They can frankly, straightforward tell you, you cannot do this. That's number one.
Abdullah, sorry about that. Just a question onto that. Does that not, though, build upon the kind of relationship you have with your children? Because if your son, the kind of relationship you've grown up is such that you can have that level of transparency or openness. And especially when someone has nothing to hide, why would it be an issue searching their bags, leaving alone the law, before we go to the law? Does that not break down the relationship that you have with the child?
That means the relationship between the parent and the kid is fragile, to be honest. But where does it come from? I mean, how did this relationship break, to that level or go down to that level? That's probably where the problem is that we need to dig. So I was saying that here in the US, at age 18, you probably don't have the opportunity to open that bag or probably even see that kid. I'm telling you, Brother Kayira, we are in control of our kids. Someone that is 18 will still consider that kid, a young person. But here someone tells you, I'm 18 and they want to be independent. I'm going to live independently. And once they say that they are going to live independently, no matter what you do, you go to the police, they tell you, how old is that kid? 18. Okay. He's an adult. So he's free to do whatever he wants to do. Unfortunately, the relationship is broken. Something wrong. You don't even have the opportunity to check. At this point, you don't have the opportunity to see whether someone is carrying a bag or not because he's out of your sight or she's out of your sight. Now, the question is, brother, when you talk about searching, when someone is out of your sight, how does social work probably intervene? What are the mechanisms? What are the options that social work provides for us to intervene and get into that? The reality of the matter is, what I'm telling you right now has no problem knocked at your door, but is somewhere. And the parents are just keeping quiet because it's too much for them. They cannot reveal much more about what's happening in their houses. How does social work now intervene in such a place, a situation where the kid is nowhere to be found, but you as a person, as a parent?
I'm sure, Abdullah, there will definitely be a point at which social workers could intervene, and it will be best to hear from them. We've got actually quite a number of social workers on tonight. We've heard from Jaden. I'll go to Hajat Kayira at some point once we've heard from the youth representative here, just to sort of hear if there are any circumstances, because I'm imagining as a parent, if you are concerned, you might be able to report this, and once you report this, if the case is taken up, probably a social worker then could have the right to be able to make a follow-up. But, well, I'm not a social worker, I'm not an expert in that area. I'm just imagining, and we will hear from any other social workers actually available in the show at the moment. Shakir here raises a very important point as I come to the youth representative here with the Uganda Muslim community. Where bullying is happening, don't expect your older child to come to you. Remember, they are also trying to protect you as much as they are protecting themselves. Then we parents react to our children, well, the way we react to our children's disclosure could be a big issue. Might be that you are told and then you take issues. And Hasfa says, but under your roof, they have limited leverage, even if, well, they are above the age that is said. Coming to youth, well, it's 26 minutes past 9 o'clock. A very interesting, very personable conversation that I'm sure cannot end tonight, because just like knife crime that we are addressing or gun crime that we are addressing, they didn't happen in one day and they cannot probably go away in one day. But together, I think we should be able to find particular solutions. Coming to the youth representative here with the UMC, just looking at, because this whole story now is rotating around young people and the kind of character that they have, the dual personality, what the parent sees at home, the beautiful, obedient son, daughter, and then the crazy one that gets once they are out of the gates of home. UMC, I'm trying to get you to unlock UMC youth representative. Shafiq, are you there? All right. Yeah, finally there. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yes, thank you for joining the conversation. First of all, well, as a young person, it would be good just to sort of take your own take about the topic for that matter. Knife crime or gun crime, are you worried at all as a young man?
is Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa
I'm
rahmatullah.
sorry for my video. I'm trying to get into the building because I was driving. Inshallah,
Alright.
because
That's
don't want to
okay.
talk
There's
when
no
people don't see me, especially on this kind of topic, because you know something that is eating our community, but we keep on hiding our heads, thinking that it's not going to get to us. And for people who have got it, we always think that they're bad parents or they're not looking after their kids. And people who haven't experienced it in their life, we're thinking that we are the good one. We're the good one. Our parents are looking. So there's that stigma, which is kind of like it doesn't help anyone. Because at the end of the day, when things like this happen, they affect everyone. They affect us as a community. The Ugandan boys who got involved, all now everywhere in the police and as Black community, we're going to be like, the search is going to be high. The harassment from the police, even though you can't like do anything, even though you're not involved, but still you're going to be.
Oh, your network is playing up. Shafiq, your network is not so good. Hopefully it will clear as you settle in. Your network went off for a little bit there. We missed a bit of you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. We could see you, but we couldn't hear you. You sort of.
Oh, sorry, because my workplace, the Wi-Fi kind of like came up connected. So I would like to talk about the things that we see in the young people and what ways we can kind of like do as a community. Because if you listen careful what they've been saying on the radio, ever since the government, the conservative came into power, they cut a lot of the work. They cut a lot of
the funding
areas, a lot of funding. So these kids, they've got nothing to do. They've got nothing to do. They're just sitting on their phones. By being their phones, a lot of information is coming through the phones to the extent that the parents, they don't know what apps they're using. Some of the submission here, they've been like, these kids are ahead. They're ahead of us. And on this, I'm calling all young people like who have kind of like excelled in life, because you know you're on this social media platform, you know what's going on, you know how you can help. Before the news was reached on BBC, it was all over social media on Snapchat. But some of the parents, they're not there. But these young people, they know who's the next target. Because now, before they even commit a crime, they even post it on the Snapchat that I'm gonna do. It can come through a song. Someone can just write a line and then post it on the social media. So I'm calling upon especially the young people, who understand, who are there and they can help. Because I think it's the right time to come and help this youngster. Most of the parents, yes, they understand the kids, but these kids, wallah, is their different generation. They're different generation. So if we don't come together and the youngsters and the young people who kind of like can come and stay with these kids. We work with a lot of people, different community, and also try and get out from our comfort zone. I've got someone like Bobby. I don't know if anyone, but I know Mam Tamim. He knows Bobby Kasanga. He's a good guy who was in prison and then came out. He has tried to create a lot, but as you know, it's not easy. So we need to get out of our comfort zone sometime, because most of our community, we think about like, we don't go darasa, you don't see them at the masjid. And we just frame them, we just put them in the side that they don't come masjid. And we just go on with that. And also, if you look at the most of our activities we do, it's only like religion kind of activity, which is not bad. At the same time, we need to kind of like look at other avenue. Apart from sitting on a darasa, coming on a Sunday on do darasa, go on masjid. We need to kind of like come with other stuff. As the government has cut the funding, the UMC right now should be having a proper organization. Like, this is uptown, all kids are going to be calm and they're going to do this. These kids, they don't forget this kind of stuff. But the moment we kind of like, we stay and we think that, nah, it's not going to come about, it's not going to affect us, it's happening in the other community. No, it's coming to us.
Shafiq, stay there because I see Tamim's mom. I think her hand is up, as well as Issa Makumbi. There might be questions for you, especially being the man that is leading the young people. There might be questions for you. Let me just allow Hawa to come back in. Hawa, please go ahead. Is it a question to Shafiq, or did you have an intervention?
Yeah, sorry. Thank you, UMC Youth UK. What you say? Okay. I think everything that he's saying is true. From someone maybe who works with young people, I think he understands, because you know what? Let me just say, like, no matter how much, like, they're cutting the funding and everything, but so many parents as well who was depending on like taking the kids to activities and everything. It's just like, oh, they just want them to go and come back to eat and sleep. There is no that connection between parents and kids, and everything starts at home. You know what I mean? So, and then again, we as Black people, especially Africans, we need to understand, as he's saying, as Yasir Kadhi is saying every day, my generation is not my son's generation. We are so different, but we can learn, so we can help our kids about knowing where he's, who's my son's friend, who's their parents, where my kid's gonna sleep. Is that the family that I want my son to be involved with? You know, all of those things. It's not the police, it's not the council, it's not the social worker who's going to come to you and tell you, oh, you know what, you should do this, you should do that. It's always starting at home. And then again, one thing I wanted to point out is that unfortunately, this knife crime, if we know it's not us who just not gonna make a noise, and especially our boys, because I'm not gonna talk much about girls. You know, when a girl, we can just be realistic and say, although people don't want to say, when it's a girl who was killed, the response is a bit different with boys. But these girls can be in gangs. This girl can be girlfriend of the boys who are in gangs. But always when it comes to girls, they get more attention. It's not a competition, but that's how it is because of the Me Too movement. All those things are not like, for us Muslims to believe. So there is politics into this. This politics is just all about what they want, how they want it. I think we both know how the crimes was in in Scotland.
Yeah.
It's not that big of a country like England. We can do it, but the government doesn't want to do it. But we have to start as parents. We have to do something. I don't see any change in my community since my son. And he's the first one who was murdered. But do we need another one? How did we learn? How do we learn? I don't see anyone who's approaching me saying like, okay, how is things going? People think other things like, oh, you know what? She's a celebrity now. She's known. She's going to have money and whatever. That's what you see how ignorant our community is. That's already dangerous. This is not on our kids. It's us parents.
Speak to Tamim's mom, please, regarding.
Actually, I follow. Apologies, but I follow the foundation, and I was planning, inshallah, to kind of like do an event and get in contact. But I see the work Tamim's mom is doing on social media, and also people, these are the platform we can kind of like come together and join. We get to, and we know, because they're different kind of activities, and we can bring in we can bring it in our community. But once again, you can hear the kind of information she's giving us. If we don't come together as a community, because now we're growing up, if you go in our community, wallahi, the percentage of kids we have, you even feel the kids are more than the elders. On Fridays, go in mosques. But where are these kids? Where are you taking them? For a long time, if you don't come up with ways of keeping them together, where are you taking them? You put them in you get them to play football in you take them to swimming and all that, but where are other activities as a community where you can bring them? Because kids, they can't forget this. I've seen them, I'm working in them, I speak to parents, but in our community, that's which is still lacking. We're thinking
Now,
that,
Shafiq, what do you think we need to do then? Because, I mean, we've had like madrasas or Quran competitions, which have been very good avenues. We've had sports days, although it happens only once a year. What more can we do? What exactly are you referring to that beyond just
Dr. Kayira, we've got Sheikh Kayira, we've got school term holidays. How come we cannot start our holidays? We've got people who teach. How can we not get money and we get our kids as a community and we get them to be there? And we start this kind of movement in every area in London or even outside London, because we can. We've got teachers, we've got nurses, we've got people who can teach. It's just giving back to the community. And you keep these kids and we've tried to follow them up. Not just talk about it and we leave it here, because at the end, it's still, we'll talk about it, but nothing's going to be done. But we're giving birth, we've got kids. We're witnessing that our kids are getting stabbed, and we know the root cause.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Shafiq. And I'll only leave you, but well, you'll still be in the background there in case you need to come in at any point. Please just raise back your hand. I'm sure you've raised very pertinent issues now that are actually a lesson for many of us. It's food for thought. It's quite, surprising that on a topic like this, given what is happening in our community, there are many fathers, many mothers out there working so hard, already in work, and feeling that even sparing a time like this becomes so expensive. Do not wait until it comes to your door. May God forbid. But definitely, these are some of the difficult conversations that we must have as a community right now if we are to save ourselves from the kind of situation that we are facing. The program is come. Let's talk with me, Kassim Kayira. It is 39 minutes past 9 o'clock. 21 minutes to the top of the hour and the end of the program. Very interesting, very emotional program so far, I must say, where we are talking about knife crime and gun crime by extension, because UK was the platform for that. But then we realized, because our audiences are much wider, we've got communities all the way across the world and in the United States where gun crime is actually an issue. And Jaden had brought up the issue of gun crime in Germany as well. Issa Makumbi, your hand is up. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, this is a very sad incident to come near our community. All the parents, just a parent's nightmare to hear the policeman knocking at their door, saying that your child or your daughter has been killed in such circumstance. But happened, but what I've learned from that? Actually, for me, I've been here for so long. I was very lucky that as soon as I left my A level, I did my university abroad. So I knew what people feel or where the problem is for anybody in the foreign land. First of all, it's just boredom. But how can we temp up? How can we deal with that boredom? It's the parents. I had some of the parents who are saying that my boys have grown so big, I can't check their handbag. That's just an excuse. You have to start coming closer to your child when they're still young. For me, when I was in that situation, I used to make lunchbox for my children, and I used to pack their bag that they take to school. They got used to that. Every day I have to check. I told them that if come back from school, don't bother emptying your bag. I'll do it myself. It was just intention to check what was there. By then, our time, there were less knives. It was more of these drugs that were being peddled by Jamaican community, as we call them. So that's what he did. As soon as the child knows that you've been checking, she usually check their handbag, it becomes a tradition. Even if it becomes 18, you know that my father or my mom, one day will check my bag and you find out if there's anything that's been concealed in the bag. People have been talking about the son that I can't go in this bed. No, that was no an excuse. From day one, either my wife used to go and clean their beds on Saturday. The reason was not to make them that they are mommy's boy or daddy's boy, to know what's going in their bed. Usually, whenever I used to take them out for playing football, mom was busy checking in their beds to know what was going on. So they used to come home screaming, saying that you've been checked my place, blah, blah. I'm sold, I can do everything for me. I say, yes, in this house, I'm the boss. As long as you're living in my house, you have to be under my laws. So subject to that, I said, if you want, you can come in my bed. It's not a crime. So it became that they became so strict, anything that they knew that it could not happen. People used to say, friends, what are the friends they liaise with? Get involved in no, they are friends. Usually they say, we are going to have a sleepover. You can say, okay, we have a sleepover. I'll take you and I'll pick up in the morning. When you say that, say, when should I pick you up? It says, Dad, come at around 10, 9 hours at the door to see who's coming in and who's coming out. From there, could see the parents, what type of the parents? Were they the right parents for my children to associate with or to be with? We have to know, keep an eye on everything that's going in. When it comes to people, usually much of the parents, they come in this place, they want to work day and night. They don't have time for their children. Saturday, say yes, between this time and this time, I have to be with you. Take out on a playground, liaise with people, play with those people around. Used to have competition. Take them. It is not very expensive. You can sacrifice that. Okay, you become a member of this club. I'll be taking you there every Saturday. Come rain or come what, you have to go. They come used. When they come home on Saturday, they are very tired. As soon as they get home, either they sleep, they start watching television. The thing that brings in those poor strangers into your house when the children become bored. How can we stop them being bored? Make them reactive. For us, when they were there, we used to have ASEA, African Community Involvement. They hated it, but they said, Sunday, there's a management meeting. We have to go together. They scream, they did what? They say, you have to be there. When they are there, they pick up their friends. It was within the community, so they know what's going on. We used to have some functions when these Saturdays, you see if you're at all having a party. Yes, what party? Can have a party starting at 2 up to 10. We take them there. You are keeping an eye on them. That one keeps them very busy. As soon as they become 18, if they're not used to that community, they will never sit with them. I had my children around, but even the neighbors didn't know that I have children. But those who were far away, they knew them. And the other thing, what you do, avoid them liaising those people around your community. Because those guys are around, that's where they take them on and pick them and then encourage them to join those groups. Friends, if you are living in Croydon, make sure to have a friend who lives in Bromley. You take them to Bromley to associate with those people. They will never link with those guys because first of all, so far, it's very expensive. They can't travel. But if you're living in the same community, let them liaise with those gang around. They'll pick them up and then join those groups. I think that's a way to forward.
Barakallahu fikum. Thank you very much, Issa Makumbi, for that submission. I'm sure now it's food for thought for many parents. Hajatibu Kenya, your hand was up, I think. Please go ahead.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
And I'm so sorry for what is happening in our community. It's hard to understand. Naye abazadde bonna kibogeddeko, alhamdulillah, ne sose wakati yatugambye alhamdulillah. Ngenda kusaba abaami muyambeko, mukyuseemuko, muteekinge, mwambale engatto zammwe as men in the family. Abaami bwe babanga the leader of the family ayongeramukko ku bukambwe ku baana nga tuddeyo nga bwe baatukuza bane taata wuuyo ebintu byonna byonna olaba nga bisobola okudda mu nteeko bataata mbadde nsaba mwongeremukko amaanyi mu bukambwe.
I just find I've just seen a message in the chat room saying they don't understand Luganda because we've got quite a wider community. But don't worry, I'll translate it. Yes, I will translate so that we don't miss the strength of this message in that. Do not worry, iPhone. I'll translate. I'll go along translating. But I just find that for the first instance, it's saying she's pleading with parents to take their responsibilities in the family, especially fathers, where, for example, in the past, the father's position, his arrival in the home would be a statement, a call to order in the house. Men have lost that. I just find that. Go ahead, please.
Kubatandike buto kati naddala bakyalina baana abato okubafuula mikwano gyammwe omwana nga abadde afuluma n'agenda ku ssomero n'akomawo n'ayingira ekisomero naye bakame myaka 16 tosobola muga nti ngenda kumwaza ensawo kuba teyakimanyiira. Tubatandikira wansi okubalaga nti olina okumanya omwana wo kikyali. Tulina obuzibu bunene nnyo ku kintu ekikwatagana n'ebiso. Tulina intaneti ezo abaana ze basiibako tetumanyi kye tugenda zikolera. Kati omwana oyo Sefa Kayira gwe nkuweereza ekiso kiraba ekiringa omusekuzo naye ng'ate mwana muto. Kati ddala nebuuza yekiisizaawa ku bazadde be n'abanga asobola okiteeka mu mpale n'abanga asobola okutamala ate nga naye mwana muto.
Ajat Farida is saying parents need to start, especially for those with younger children, to start getting involved at a younger age, so that then you start building up this kind of relationship. And she refers to the clip that has been going on online, which has been viral regarding lives. Yes, go ahead. I can hear some voice. I'll just check who. Don't worry, Hajati. Go ahead.
Ekirala abazadde kitulina wano. Nze mbesinga nnyo baatukuza batyaffe ffe tukuziza tutya abaana baffe. Eka nga n'okugenda ku mulira n'okulya obulya emmere ku mulira bayinza okukuba emigo nga tewayogedde nti gy'olaga. Naye kati kino ekyokutwalanga abaana ne mubaga nti bagenda mu manya bamuziyita ki sleep overs. Sleep overs olaba zireese obuzibu mu famire zaffe. Omwana byagenda okusanga eri ebikyamu tagenda bikubuulira muteringi. Tajja bikubuulira. Sleep overs ezo nazo muzikyuseemu. Tezirina nnyo kirungi tezisize mu baana.
Now, for the non-Luganda speakers, Ajat Farida has just said there that there are issues, the way we were brought up. Of course, we are living in different times, but upbringing has a particular characteristic. And if you see the manner in which we were brought up, for example, even going to eat at a neighbor's place or a neighbor's house would be highly controlled. And therefore, the fact that we find ourselves in times where children now, especially around this time, go for sleepovers, the kind of stuff that happens to our children when they go for those sleepovers, a lot of times you wouldn't be told or you won't be told what has happened to them while they are there. And that can become a serious problem. So for parents, definitely to take note of that.
Abaana babakula nga bava buto. Tewali mwana akula nga ali mu gganga. They learn from others. Babeera influenced with the friends. Gabola omwana nti akula ne bamuzaala nga tanywa sigala. N'agenda munne n'amugamba sikako wano katono. Enkeera n'addamu n'amugamba sikako cannabis. Olwo omwana n'atandika okunywa enjaga. Ba friends abaana abazadde abaana tubawadde obudde butono. Tetubawadde budde bumala. Okumanya omwana wange friend kigwayina. Abazadde tufaayo nnyo okubeera nga tulondola abaana okuva ewaka paka ku ssomero okumanya omusomesa omwana wange baba mu ssomero yeeyisa atya bakwana be baani. Nze ndowooza nti n'ekyo nakyo kijja tuyambako n'omanya omwana we neeyisaaze. Kati nyina omukyalo omu mukwano gwange yalina omwana nga omwana amulimba. Olwaliro n'amugamba nti no nagenzeeko wa mukwano gwange enkya n'amugamba nti ate ku ssomero bansibiddeyo enkya. Ne mugamba nti sooka olondoola omwana oyo gwe wennyini ve waka oyambale engoye z'atamanyi omugoberere okuva ku ssomero paka okutuuka wagambye wagenda ya ending up nga omwana ayina omulenzi omukulu amukozesa ng'omulenzi oyo maama be baba bagenze kola mu budde obwo abaana bwe bannyuka ye maama agenda okutandika okukola zigenda saa 12 omulenzi n'ava ku ssomero ezo essaawa kati n'anoono omwana omuto ku ssomero n'abeera nga amukozesa so ebyo byonna kati abaana bakulimba nti manya nabadde biki nga si kyekyo kubanga bwana akulimba ng'okkiriza ebyo byonna ebizibu tubifunye naye twefeeko.
Now, that is very important, Hajat Farida. Let me just translate it for those who are on and not Luganda speakers. Hajat Farida says about taking a bit of time to follow our children, especially that journey that we spoke about in the introduction, the journey from home to school. She has a friend who had a child and a child who was acting a bit weird. I mean, pretending, saying they are being held in detention at school, or passing wherever at a friend's place and so on. She insisted on the mother going and following up on the child. And well, as the truth got revealed, this boy was leaving school and then getting used by another boy or using another boy and abusing them. Of course, I'm talking about using, but abusing the boy. And by the time the parent realized, quite a lot of water had gone under the bridge. So some of these telltale signs which would help to at least avert this kind of situation.
So ndowooza nti tujja kweyambako n'abazadde okuba nga tuvaamu ekyokugamba nti no Hajat Farida nasanze omwana wa Kayira sigenda mugambako kuba Hajji Kayira ajja kunyiiga. N'olaba omwana wa munno ng'ali muganga enywa sigala enywa omwenge enyekola ki n'osirika busirisi naye ate bw'osirika nga omwana owuwa kyali myaka 6 wamma oluweze 14 nga naye atandika kiri kitegeeza ffenna buli omu afe ku mwana wa munne ffenna community emu kijja kuggwa olwaleero ffe tukuzizza abaana nga twogererwa bwogererwa era ffe kati twamala okukuza ne tutunula bwe tuti byonna oli bye yayogeranga nga ow'ewa myaka 65 kati ku ssaawa eno abirabako. So ffenna buli omu abeere ng'afaayo ku mwana wa munne wamulabye wagenze wawulidde ekintu abazadde mulekeraawo okwekwekerera ebikyamu mu baana bwe mba nkugambyeko nti omwana wo namusanze ng'akola kino mba nkuyambye nze nakuza abaana era ekyo kyenjogera mu community bane busanga omwana naye ng'alina ekizibu mbuulira kuba oyamba nze naye abazadde tetwagala kubagambira ku baana oluyogerako nti alingiriza omwana wange wayita emyaka 5 ng'omwana bamutwala mu kkomera. So
Barakallahu fikum, Hajat Farida. Thank you very much. I'll just translate that last bit. Hajat Farida's recommendation, strong recommendation, is as a community, let's go back to the basics. Let's be everybody's eye. I mean, let's look after our children. For a parent to find somebody else's child misbehaving or dealing in something and you don't tell the other parent because you don't want to get involved, you don't want the other person to, maybe you don't feel like it's your problem. Well, a couple of years down the road, that same child of yours now might end up in a similar situation. And if you didn't do anything, then actually, it comes to bite you at the same time. So as a community, I think it's about taking back community responsibility, where a child still belongs to an entire community. If you see something going wrong within somebody else's home, if you can intervene, do the best that you can, because if you might be actually saving your own self in that particular situation. Mariam, I can see Jaden's hand, and 75, I think, might be Becca, but I can see Mariam's hand. You've raised an important question here, and I wanted to bring you in here just to flag it a little bit further. You say, Mr. Makumbi saying that take children to different places, but the gangs stop teenagers to move in different postcodes. Could you just elaborate a little bit on that, please, Mariam? Hello, Mariam. Yeah, maybe somebody else might be able to well, delve a little bit on that if Mariam is not in a position and she had just texted the message. But she says that the gangs actually start controlling where someone goes, which means then they cannot move between postcodes. So the suggestion that you can take the children away from that particular postcode might not necessarily be the issue. Let's come to 75. That'd be ready. I think that might be Becca. Go ahead as I read this text message here quickly from Zaria. Zaria says, what Hajat Farida is saying is very true. In the Eritrean community, I witnessed a woman manhandling a boy who was smoking, but she didn't even know the boy's parents, but she got involved merely by identifying his features as Eritrean. Well, that's community sense now coming in. In our Ugandan community, sometimes it gets really bad in case you are to take on to that. Haji Kassim also says that's easier said than done. People are already following the English ways of bringing up children. That actually might also be another obstacle. Mariam, you say you can't talk, that is noted. Yes, go ahead, 75. Becca, Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, Sheikh Kayira.
Yes,
I
please,
pray and
go
hope
ahead.
that you're well. But yeah, I think I can elaborate on that because I remember when I was about, I think 17 or 18, round about there, I was wearing red, or I was all dressed in red basically, and I was walking down King's Cross train station, and one young person approached me and he was like, "Are you from one area?" He mentioned, and then I was like, no, why? And then I asked him why. Then he was like, "Oh, because you're wearing all red. I thought you're from there." And then he was like, "Make sure you don't go to such and such an area." He told me some areas wearing this because you'll get stabbed. So there are certain areas as a young person you cannot go to wearing a certain color because people might perceive you as maybe you're from a certain area or maybe you're from a certain gang. So there are certain areas that you don't go to wearing certain colors, But Sheikh Kayira, this is not the first time this is happening. This is not the last time it's going to happen. It is going to happen again. One reason is because when we see certain things, certain incidents, we don't picture ourselves in these incidents. For me, like the Croydon incident, when it happened, the first thing that came to my mind is like, what if this person has been stabbed is Ugandan? What if it turns out that this person is Ugandan? And I shared a message around telling people, advising people, just making a comment on it. And then as it turns out, the person that actually was the perpetrator is the Ugandan. But then now when we see these incidents, do we picture and imagine, what if this was my son? What if this was my daughter? Not many parents picture this. That's why we don't act. That's why we don't wake up, because we think our children are too good, or we think it's too far away from us. But then it's only an incident. We look at the child, parents paid for their daughter to go to a private school. It turns out they ended up being stabbed. They were protecting them from one of the reasons I'm sure why they went to private school is to protect them from this incident that actually happened. But look how things turn out, that it turns out one of her friends who was killed is the one who was actually connected to this young man that did this. But for parents out there, I think it's time we wake up, It's time we all kind of like wake up, because many parents out there, they're suffering quietly in silence, yet help is out there. Parents come out when it's too late. Too late. Look at the kids nowadays, young boys, they're all emotional. They all look like girls. They've got they're plaiting hair, wearing earrings. This is a cry for help, parents. If your child plaits their hair, if your child wears earrings, stuff like this, say certain things that you don't agree with, this is a cry for help at times. So please, parents, wake up and look for help, because literally help is out there. There's help out there, but we don't reach out for it. Like I've said this before, when you see flowers on the ground, picture that could be your son or daughter, could be your sibling, it could be anyone in your family. Please, let's wake up. Tomorrow, I'm bringing boys on my show, young boys, young adults that have walked the streets of London, because I think many people don't understand how dangerous the streets are in London. So tomorrow I'm bringing young boys on the show that are going to literally digest these incidents and also tell us about the streets, and also see what kind of solutions we should take, what kind of steps we should take as a people, as a community, as parents, because
Baker, we are from the Black community. Now, adding the fact that, again, you start narrowing down, you start from Black, you add Muslim to that, you add Ugandan, it starts narrowing down, or Burundian, or Tanzanian, or Zanzibari. Well, you're Tanzanian, or you're Burundian, you're Rwandese. The idea of the fact that there is already an issue of profiling, I don't know whether you were on already when Tamim's mom was on, when she was making her submission. The kind of frustration that she felt, could it have been that, for example, Blacks or people from ethnic minorities are treated differently in case a stabbing happens? If it's a Black person, does it automatically come like, this is normal? You know, it's Black on Black, it's just a normal thing. Could it be that also that is getting in the way of providing solutions that could have happened?
100%, because it's become normal, because one, as a community, we've accepted it. Once we see it, we're like, oh God, another one. Oh God, another one. So it kind of like diverts us from literally picturing, what if this was my son? What if this was someone I know? Yes, this can be stopped, because this boy, first of all, is underage. Within a couple of years, he's going to be out. He's probably going to go to a youth offenders unit or whatever. And then maybe when he turns 18, they'll put him in prison. But then because he's committed this crime at the age of 17, he could be out within a year or two. You know, I know so many boys that committed crime, but they're on the streets already. Why? Because the way the system is laid out, there's not enough repercussions for someone that's done such an incident, you know, someone that's done such a thing, you know, before you know it, they'll be on the streets and yet ready to commit. And when they go to prison, actually, they make more friends, they make more acquaintance, they meet more other people that are going to literally make them even better than, well, I don't know if I call it better, but even worse, actually, I would say, worse than who they are right now. This boy might have been vulnerable, might have been done this, and maybe this wasn't even him as a person, but because these boys on the streets, majority of them, probably 75% or even 60% of them, walk with knives on the streets. One reason they say is for protection. But once you carry a knife on the street, when something, but once let's say this boy, if he didn't have a knife, this wouldn't have happened. But even this knife, he could have left with this knife at home to protect himself, not to slaughter this young lady, but because he was angry, he was literally not himself at that particular moment, you're going to end up using that knife. Once you walk with that knife, someone's going to put pressure on you, someone's going to stretch you, an idea is going to pop into your mind and you're going to end up using it. When, had you left it at home, you wouldn't have used it.
Becca, you grew up in this country. You came here as a very young boy. You've grown up in this country to become the man that you are now, which means you've almost transitioned through the kind of scenarios that we are talking about. And you grew up in London, of all places. Paint a picture for a person, because part of the dilemma that some of us find as parents is you've come from an environment that is so protected, that is so clear in how it is. And you found yourself now having to parent a child in these circumstances on the streets that are as dark as they can be when they choose to be. How does a young person survive on the streets, given the kind of fear that is in place?
Kayira, growing up, you go to school and you have me, luckily, I thank Allah. I don't know how, but I thank Allah that I managed to make the right friends. But me, I was a good judge of character, I would say, because I don't even know, I could have literally ended up on the other side of things, you know, but obviously because literally London could be quite a lonely place. You know, the streets are, the school, everywhere you go is very lonely for young people. You know, very, very, there's literally, in Uganda, when you, basically where you live, every single person knows you. You know, you go outside, you meet different people, you play football, you know, but here, everywhere, behind a block of flat, no playing football games, no ball games. On every flat, it says no ball games. If you live in a house and let's say, probably even your parents don't want you making noise at home, they're like, why are you shouting, you know? So literally London could be quite a lonely place. So me growing up here, I managed to, one of the advice I'm going to give young people actually, and also maybe parents could tell their children this, is when I was growing up, I was able to know that I had friends, you know, but I was able to literally know that this person I can walk with on the streets. This person, once the gates open and we have to leave school, I cannot be seen with this person on the streets of London. I cannot be seen with this person in the shopping center in Croydon, because I went to school in Croydon. I cannot, you know, so that I was able to gauge that this person, I cannot jump on the same bus as this person. We are in school, at school, we are literally friends. We like, you know, we're friends, we talk and everything, but I know this person I can walk with on the way out of school.
Becca, but that is you choosing the friends. What if they choose you? Because if it's like gangsters, they may choose you. It may not be that you choose them. What happens in a situation where they choose you? Even if you have to say
Yes,
no, then you get
unfortunately that happens. You know, unfortunately there are things that basically you see what's happening now. We, as young boys, they want to wear the best trainers on the streets. So one of the tricks that's being used now, how they're capturing young people, is they're getting them nice clothes, they're getting them nice trainers. So they're literally these people that are recruiting members to join their gangs is they go on the streets and they bring them crepes, nice trainers. These ones like 300, 500 worth of trainers, you know, they give you. So if you're a parent and you see your son, your daughter, they're wearing nice shoes, nice clothes, and you didn't even provide them this money, they don't have a job, you know, but then they're wearing nice things, nice trainers. Where do you think they're getting this money from? You know? So there are people giving them this stuff. And once they give you these things, you're going to have to do what? You're going to have to do whatever they want you to do. You're going to have to sell drugs for them. You're going to have to literally join their gang. There are so many things you're going to be doing for them. So one thing is, do not take those things. Because once you take them, they're going to give you drugs to sell for them. And then afterwards, they're going to get someone to rob you, whereby you won't be able to sell those drugs. You won't be able to give them the money they want. Before you know it, you belong to them. Why? Because you've lost their drugs, and their drugs, they want their money. So you're gonna have to make up this money. So this is what's happening. This is how they're recruiting young people on the streets. So you find out you have a son, he wants to leave a gang, he cannot leave. Why? Because once he leaves, they know where he lives. They've sent him pictures of his mother, they've sent him pictures of his siblings, they know which school his siblings go to, they know where his mom works, where his dad works. So before you know it, he's in the gang to protect his family. Before you know it, he's been stabbed. So one thing is, do not take this free stuff they're providing on the streets for you, because there's no way out. The only way out is prison or laying on the streets.
Right. Thank you very much, Baker. And I'll come to Shafiq because I can see Tamim's mom's hand is up and Jaden's hand has also been up. Shafiq, probably want to respond quickly to Baker, whose place you took as the leader of the youth now. He was the leader of the youth before you. Probably now you can see a kind of a synergy in that, and then I'll come to Tamim's mom and end with Jaden. Yes, please, go ahead.
Just a quick one to reply to Becca. It's just that this generation is hard. Sometimes I feel for them, because when you go down the road and you speak to these kids and you see the environment they're living in, getting from the parents, and how, you know, the way we grow up, the parents, they're trying to build back home and they're trying to work, adding on the pandemic, how things changed. All this is affecting these kids, but we don't know how to deal with it because it's something which is new. It's not the same as you can rely to the way us were bad, for example, at college, but the way these kids are going is social media, just the information they're getting. Wallahi, it's a trial to them, and it's not easy. Sometimes I question myself that in case if it was myself, how would I have reacted with the pressure these kids are going through? So all this pressure is there, but us who have seen it and we know the repercussion, because at the end of the day, it's coming. We just need to be there and try to help these kids and get them, because they're part of us. We can't deny them. They're part of us. So it's just to try and work. We create ways, leave alone the why putting whatever, us as a community, to create a strong community. Asians are doing it. Nigerians now have started doing it. They've got this the way dads they play with their kids everywhere. In Hackney, there is on Friday, this Asian community, they've got 2 mosques. They combine together. They hired out the whole pitch. The dad come with their kids, and they start the booking from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, working together. When the prayer starts, they all stop the game and they pray on the pitch and they go again. It's kind of like coming up with such activity that we can engage these youngsters so that they don't leave us. But the moment we let it go and we let them deal with whatever the community or the society is showing them, we are lost as a community.
Thank you very much. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah. Tamim's mom, I come to you so that I end with Jaden there. Apologies, we're already 12 minutes over the program, but I can see it's always towards the end that you start heating up. We are finding solutions, community solutions as to what we can do to try to deal with this situation. Yes, Hawa, please go ahead.
Yes,
Hello?
alaikum.
Yeah, okay. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Okay, I just wanted to ask something, but I think he mentioned it, 75 Derby, this person, it was something that we didn't talk about, it's grooming.
Right.
And then, yeah, so we didn't say that, and then he said about that, and then I think that's something that also as parents we should just look into, but also the way he said about the parents and don't understand and don't want to see like, okay, you didn't provide these things and everything. I know so many people like that as well. And also you just like comfortable not knowing where your kids things coming from. And I think that make your kid like, you know, like chicken and chips shop. He comes with a chicken and chips, but you gave him a lunch. He went with he doesn't have money, and then you just leave it like that. So it's something that I wanted to say, but he said it already, so it's fine.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. All right, Jadine, please go ahead. Hello, Jadine.
Hello, assalamu alaikum, and thank you once again.
Wa alaikum salam.
I just wanted to come in aid of the youth from UMC, because he was struggling to put across the message, which I could see quite clearly because we had such problems when I was a social worker. When you are at the age of 15, 16, 17, sometimes up to 18, the last thing on your mind is about the hereafter. So Darasa to them is a very boring place. And they go there just because you have told them, but they would rather be in some other place. Now, I remember during the recent holiday, there was lessons for madrasa, for kids and so on. And that worked well, but I could tell it was a certain age who were enjoying that particular organization. But if we can involve our children in meaningful things that mean to them, you know, work skills, for example, community service, volunteering, playing games, like him said, the Asian community hire a place and take their children to play games. And it doesn't have to be football. You can have PlayStation games, you can have digital games, to involve these kids in the things that matter to them now. But if we insist on Darasa, they will just be there. And the moment you take your eye off the ball, they're off to the corner street, they're off in their gangs. And somebody mentioned about the type of gangs. And I know in Newcastle.
No, before you leave that, I just want to be clear and be sure that you're not saying madrasa should be out, but it should be as well as madrasa.
Madrasa as well as.
Yes, because I think religion is very, very crucial.
No.
It's very, very easy. We the sheikhs would be out of work if you
yeah, madrasa as well as other extracurricular activities. That one is there, because engage them in the morning when they're still fresh in the madrasa, and then in the afternoon when they start to get bored, in skills, you know, knitting and crafts and things which mean something to them, which they can take forward. You know, painting, you can meet together and do, say, pottery or painting or even clay shooting, those kind of activities.
Yes.
Now, in terms of gangs, you say you can take children to different pitches, but here in Newcastle, there's the two main rival gangs. There's the East End gangs and then the West End gangs. And you just don't cross the line. There's an imaginary line where they meet and nothing happens. I think that's around the library. The West goes that end and the East comes this way. And if anybody from the West comes over to this end, it becomes a problem. So taking children to parks, as it is said, becomes a very risky and dangerous activity for parents and even for children themselves. Issa Makumbi, I think, made very pertinent points. as long as the child is living in your house, you are the boss. There's no saying you can't go and check their house. I mean, their room. You have every trick in the book. Like you said, the father can take them out for shopping while the mother does the investigation work at home, and vice versa, that kind of thing. Volunteer to make for them packed lunch, volunteer to sew their clothes if there's any damage, and volunteer to put things right in their room while you are checking for telltale signs of knives and drugs and whatever they may be dealing with. But just on a final note, I don't know how the parents of those who have lost their lives are coping. As a community, I think we should think of putting in something to help with the emotional support of those parents. We can't leave it to the government and to other organizations, but because we understand our pain. This is our pain. We understand what pain looks like to us as a community. And I would say maybe the religious leaders and teachers who are in that field, psychologists, should come together and put something small to give them like moral support and help them in that journey. It's a very lonely place if you lose somebody. And
no, absolutely.
as a community, we should do
And
something.
Jaden, also my feeling as well is that even for the families of the culprits, for example, the son who stabbed, who is from within the community, you find that now the parents don't know where to look because suddenly they become criminals themselves. It's like the failing of the son, or the crime that is committed by the son becomes the crime of the parents.
Of the family. Yeah.
They committed this. I think the support systems now should be able to address even both sides and see how we can sort of push it forward. Thank you very much. Message here from Laila Kadu, who says African parents should stop playing racist card. Community officers can't really help much. And longish message here, which I think will be the one that we end with. I think it was Tamim's Legacy Mom who says, I wanted to say thank you, Brother Kassim, for giving me a platform, and also everyone who listened. I hope we can keep learning this issue to save our young kids and help ourselves from this horrible situation that parents keep losing kids. Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good night. And actually, that's a very good point, probably, at which to end the conversation. It's been very lovely. But like we said, this is just opening the conversation. This is a debate that will probably continue for years and years, because like Baker said, this is not the last that has happened. This is not the first, and it's not the last. And may God actually protect our communities. We must put in place mechanisms now that have to deal with this. While we thought probably it was very far off, it is far off until it gets to you. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect our communities, but also give us the resolve as parents to be able to help our children survive these kinds of situations. May the young people also get to a time where they can protect themselves beyond what the parents have also provided, without necessarily embarking on knives or guns for that matter. I can only thank you so much. The program was Let's Talk with me, Kassim Kayira. It's actually 21 minutes past 10 o'clock, 21 minutes over the usual time, and apologies for that, but I think we had a very good conversation that was worth having. I hope we can pick lessons from this and therefore use it as a platform that we can use to try to improve our communities and solve or cut down on the numbers of such crimes that may happen. Thank you very much. We do not take your custom for granted. We thank you very much for sparing the time, and hope to see you next Tuesday, same time, when we discuss another very interesting topic. Someone spoke about packing food for our children, making packed lunch. There are always issues around packed lunch. When you take food that is African food, you take your jollof rice or fufu to school, you can imagine how that would play out. Children would still want to be there. Hajat Naima Kaira says, parents, please, actually, that would be a good message to end with. I'm just missing that. Let me just get it well. It says, parents, please educate yourself with county line activities. County line activities, oh, it's time to get learning. Let me just get off the TV, get off the screen, and get learning myself. Bridging the Gap is on tomorrow at 7 p.m. and the conversation regarding young people and how they cope in those situations will be continuing with Becca Chinji at 7 p.m. Same place, 7 p.m. But same place. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Have a very good night and thank you very much for making us or giving us the company. We need this show again with you, with youth at the age brackets under discussion. And this is from Hasbi Allah wa ni'mal wakil. We'll take it, inshallah. We take that on board. Thank you very much. In case you have any topic that you would like discussed, please, you can always recommend it to us and then we'll take it up. Have a very good night and I hope and pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helps us through this kind of dilemma that we are facing now as a community. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.